we'll get started then, guys. So welcome. Thank you for coming on today's webinar of an employee's introduction to digital T-levels at NSCG. And we have our fantastic speaker, Mark. So I'll hand straight over to you, Mark. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon. Thank you for the kind introduction. Probably want to play it down amazing, you know, just to deal with expectations. Hopefully the presentation is going to be in and around 25 minutes time. Should hopefully give an overview in terms of T-levels, what they are, what to expect from them and why they've been introduced, and then really specifically looking at the digital pathway and what opportunities that offers hopefully for our employers. So I'll just share my screen if that's okay with everyone. Hoping people can see that. Do give me a fierce nod if you can. Fantastic, thank you. So in terms of T-levels, they are a national flagship education programme. They are in a range of different sectors, and they are ideally looking to work in a position between our typical academic route way of A-levels and also sat beside work-based learning. So it's in that gulf between that currently applied generals sit, and there is a lot of discussion around that kind of conversation as to what impact that then yields on applied generals. As an introduction, my name is Mark Kent. I'm the Assistant Director of Curriculum, particularly supporting professional studies faculty, and IT sits within that at both Newcastle and Stafford campus. So hopefully from today, I'll try not to promise too much. At the end, there will be the opportunity to ask any questions, but you know, this is quite informal, so feel free to Not sure what happened there.
No, I don't see. That was really strange.
I'll try again.
Yes, go ahead, try again. I apologise about that. I've got no idea what happens.
Right, okay. So as mentioned before, I'm hoping I'm picking up at the same point. I just got kind of kicked off the call. Hopefully the presentation will cover why and who has introduced the T-level programmes, what the T-levels are and how they differ from typical study programmes that 16 to 19-year-olds would go on to in FE. How do T-levels work? So what's the structure behind it? Because it is completely different. It's not just an applied general or, you know, what we would typically associate with 16 to 19-year-olds. It's a completely different study programme for learners to experience and develop from. Why is it beneficial to employers? So from the employee's perspective, why is it important to get a handle on these changes in further education? How will it help your workforce in the future? Obviously, with working so closely with employers may get a little concerned in terms of what is actually expected of them. So it's probably important that we give a little bit of clarity there to the role of the employer as part of the T-level programme. And then what I really want to kind of focus on is the digital T-level placements in terms of what the college is offering at Newcastle and Stafford campus, and what skills do our learners develop as part of this pathway and working alongside the employers. From there, hopefully, I know we have got our industry placement team who are also on the call, but there'll be an opportunity to ask any questions. They're really very well placed and proactive in terms of answering some of those questions and also starting to look at the next steps of how we move forward. So why and who has introduced the T-level programme? So really these were something that came quite a while ago, really, in terms of a review from the further education sector, something that came as part of the Sainsbury report, really, in 2017. From there, T-levels have been spoken about in terms of this key strategy to developing the technical skills required to help our workforce and employers in the future. It's trying to introduce enhanced work placements that really it synergizes with what students are learning in the classroom and gives them that real work environment to try and hone those skills. There's something that's been based on and to try and replicate some of the technical education models that we see overseas, and something that we wanted to bring to the UK really, to start to develop that technical skill set. In terms of who has developed them, it's very much between the Department of Education. Employers have been very proactive with T-levels, starting to shape them in terms of what they want for their future workforce. And it's also something that you have one designated award board for each pathway. So for instance, in digital, there is digital support services, which is supported by NCFE as an award board, whereas digital production, design and development is only supported by Pearson as the award board. So the idea behind it is it starts to reduce some of the potential confusion that you could see in further education in terms of who awards what and what qualifies who to do certain roles. So the idea is to try and increase the clarity of what your future employees have to do. So in terms of what T-levels are and how do they differ, T-levels are a technical study program. What they will aim to do is sit alongside work-based learning and also A-level. As I mentioned at the start of the presentation, there's a lot of discussion at the moment in terms of applied general. So BTECs, for instance, extended diplomas that are weighted at 3 A-levels themselves. So BTEC, extended diploma in IT and computing. So for instance, what happens with those where there is a T-level pathway is very much open to debate. As it stands, if there is a T-level pathway in that subject, then the applied general would be defunded in the future. However, there are ongoing conversations on that front. What it should mean by 2024, students at 16, they will have the option, and their option of choice should be A-level, apprenticeship, or T-level. One of those 3 options or routeways should be what they choose as a full-time study program. And as you can see there, the difference in terms of theory to practical is on the kind of a very, very crude way of looking at it from the visual and the imagery on the slide. So I'm going to show a short video. It's about 5 minutes in length. It's taken from the DOV, and it's probably really very helpful because it does give centre perspective, also those of students and employers, to talk about, well, what they are, how beneficial they are, and how exciting this provision is for employers, students and centres in the near future. So I'll play it. Hopefully you can hear it. If people can nod to make sure you can hear the volume, that would be appreciated. Great, thank you.
So a friend told me about it and I had heard about T-levels before, so I came to an open meeting and since then I've been sold. The T-levels are a new qualification aimed at students from 16 to 18 who are following on from their GCSEs, and at the end of the course the T-level will be the equivalent of 3 A-levels.
For employers, it's going to be really effective for them because they're going to find that students have the knowledge that they're looking for in people that they want to employ.
It was really refreshing that T-levels were designed with employers so that the qualification meets industry need.
And they also are valid for UCAS points, which opens up the opportunities to attend university. I think it's fresh, it's something new, it's very flexible in terms of teaching the content.
The T-level qualification is a great combination of academic and workplace experience. The students spend approximately 80% of the time in college and 20% of the time in the workplace.
I think that's a very good opportunity for the students, because what will happen is they will actually go in the same work environment that they are hoping to join in the future.
Because it's equivalent to 3 A-levels, it's really impressive to other employers. And I think as well, the work placement is what attracted me, because you actually are doing something, you're not just learning in the classroom, you are actually going out and learning in the industry.
There are 3 T-levels at the moment that started September 2020. But from September 2021, there will be 10.
So for students who haven't quite met the entry requirements to go directly onto a T-level, there's a transition year.
It's really fun because they kind of bring the enjoyment and the activities into the classroom where we can actually understand it.
So using computer-aided design systems like Revit and CAD is extraordinary. It's better than anything I've done in the past.
It gives you the opportunity to do placements and have a real feel out about how the real life is and how working life is.
Obviously, as teachers, we have a commitment to students, families, to give them the best options and the best future they can possibly get.
After our 2 years, there is an option of advanced apprenticeship.
For a time, I've been wanting to go to university, so it's going to help bridge that gap between college and university really, really well. Although at the moment, I'm thinking, well, with my experience, I might just go straight into the workplace. I can basically do whatever I want, so I have those options.
I'll say to parents, this is one of the best things that will happen to your children, because at the moment, with all the skills shortage in the country, this is an opportunity for your child to develop employability skill and able to get a job.
It gives you the opportunities where to go on to a higher apprenticeship, which can also lead to a degree apprenticeship, or if you want to go down the route of going to university, it also gives you that opportunity.
From our perspective, T-levels carry the same weight as A-levels and other qualifications. They carry UCAS tariff points at the same levels based on the depth and breadth of learning and the expected capabilities of a student. And we welcome T-level completers to come and study degree courses with us at Staffordshire University, and we value the learning journey that those students will have taken.
We, as employers, have kind of shaped how the T-levels will work.
It's really important for us to be forward thinking and really understand skill shortages that will be coming forward and really working with our customers to tackle that skill shortage.
I really hope that teachers will support T-levels. It's such a big thing, and it's a new thing that's been brought to the industry. And it is about those teachers being those role models and telling their students about T-levels and what the opportunities are.
If I was 16 and I was leaving school, having taken my GCSEs, I would certainly be looking at the potential of taking a T-level, mainly due to the hands-on nature of the course. Although I wasn't 100% sure I'd get everything from the course at the start, I did one, although it did seem really good. It's ticked literally every box I could have hoped for.
I love the depth of the learning that the students are getting from it. Previously as a nursery manager myself, that was something that I noticed that students maybe didn't have, and the depth of knowledge that they're gaining from it alongside the creative and practical experience that they're getting has been fantastic for them.
Some of them felt it was quite challenging at the beginning, but they've really developed the skills as they've gone on, and they're actually really, really enjoying the course. We've got a lot of positive feedback.
What I'm doing is getting me to that next step faster.
If you want to find out more,
you can visit tlevels.gov.uk.
You can find out which providers are offering T-levels in your area by looking on the website.
Lots of providers have open days where you can find out more.
There's loads of information online too.
You can follow T-levels on Instagram, Twitter or Facebook.
Okay, so I mean, hopefully that video was helpful in terms of giving perspective of employers, learners, centres, and also actually the university, which is probably really very important as well, because as mentioned, it's weighted at 3 A levels, so it does still have that academic weighting. It's all about the exit routes being into the industry, through the apprenticeship route potentially, also not having those university opportunities cut off for our students potentially in the future. So in terms of the T-levels and how it works, students have got to complete each of the following. They've got to complete the core components. This is assessed by our external assessments and also an employer set project. They also have to do occupational specialism. So it's the language used for this part is very much akin to that of work-based learning and apprenticeship framework. So they are all in there in terms of the skills, knowledge and understanding that students have to demonstrate. They have to do their industry placements. It's a minimum of 315 hours, although each pathway are very much different. So health and social care, the early years, construction, digital, may all well have different number of hours that the students have to commit to and complete as part of their industry placement. The digital route way itself is 315 hours over the 2 years, which is a minimum of 45 days. There is also potentially, dependent on the route way that you choose, so early years, for instance, you have to complete their license to practice as part of the qualification before they can exit and achieve the T level. For digital, there isn't that. Learners will be awarded an overall grade, so that will be set from the core being graded from A star downwards, the occupational specialisms being assessed against past merit distinction, and from there, their overall grade is calculated. As you can see there are various elements that make up the full technical qualification. So in the top left is the core aspect and learning. So for the digital route way, things along the lines of digital analysis, legislation and emerging issues for the digital sector, and also business environment fall into that topic and learning. In the top right are the occupational specialisms. So for the digital route way, this is very much about analysing the business problem. So that might well be software development, web-based presence, and data analytics, something that's worked in conjunction between the award board and the employer would like their learner to work on. From there, they demonstrate the skill set to analyse a problem, design and develop the solution, gather feedback, and then from there, evaluate the feedback. And from there, the teaching team are able to provide a grade. They have to complete their industry placements. So in the bottom left there, you can see there's a minimum and maximum number of hours that have to be completed. All that are supported by the industry placement team at the college. So we do have someone who would be visiting, making sure they're supported, making sure that they are a help as opposed to a hindrance to the employees that they're working with. We'd also expect and anticipate the employer to provide someone who would be a mentor or line manager from the employer. In the middle there's been a softening in terms of the maths and English requirements. Previously, a learner would have to achieve their maths and English on exit, otherwise they would not be able to achieve their T-level programme. In recent weeks, that's been slightly softened from the government. Every student should be working towards, but it wouldn't negate them achieving the qualification if they didn't achieve their maths or English now. So that's slightly changed. And as mentioned before, there might be specific license to practice aspects through particularly some of the construction, engineering, hairdressing or early years frameworks where they have additional requirements outside of the core and occupational specialisms. In total, the course is much more demanding. It's between 900 and 1400 hours, which is significantly more than what a learner will be doing as part of their applied general. And that's why it's something that the government are quite keen to be a success, as are we, because we know our students are able to enter the industry as employees far better having done one of these qualifications. Why are they beneficial to employees in terms of the T levels? Well, it's a solution for recruitment and entry-level jobs. You are nurturing your talent for the future. It certainly is a cost-effective way for recruitment because you are nurturing people you want to work with in the future and starting to train them from an early age to mentor them into someone who would add value to your company. And as is the case, developing young people into your industry will give a fresh perspective, an extra set of hands for help with projects that you might have, and also it would give you more community investment in terms of working people from within and around your area. From there, it could also improve your diversity, maybe someone who brings a new way of doing things into the sector rather than something that is constantly looking through the same set of lenses. Things that are expected by being involved in a T-level programme, really we just want to help and support to give our learners the best opportunity to understanding what the sector requires and also supporting our employers to potentially have exceptional employees in the future. So we'd expect that provision of an invaluable opportunity in terms of gaining real work experience. We'd also expect a minimum of 45 days placement is provided, which equates for the digital route way to about 315 hours. We'd expect to hopefully work with the college and we'd be in constant liaison to make sure everything is supported and in place for your needs moving forward. Obviously, we want to comply with all health and safety as part of any agreement that the industry placement team would support with. conform to the expectations of the industry placement agreement, which again we would provide, so you would be able to be fully versed in what you're working with and how that's going to occur. As a side note, we'd always want them to be a mentor, someone who the student would be working closely with to support their development of progress as a mentor or line manager to get that professional kind of development that they will need within the work setting. So all of the points that I previously mentioned do actually apply to all of the T levels that students are able to offer, and they are increasing and they are going to be more available in the future. So whether it's early years, whether it's hair and beauty, construction, engineering, digital, all the previous points made on the slides that have come up really apply across all of those. In terms of being specific now to digital production, design and development. So the entry requirement for this course for our students are 5 GCSEs at grade 5 or above. They must include maths and English. You would find it in our prospectus and you'll see it online for any student that's interested in applying to the course. It is two years in length and it is 3 days per week. We have different ways that we can shape the placement between having 1 day per week, or alternatively, we are keen to also look and explore opportunities to do block placement hours. What we would always encourage all the employees to do is to reach out to us, and from there we can provide additional knowledge and hopefully put in place how you want the work placement to work alongside this course. Progression for learners should be employment, an apprenticeship, university, or even higher apprenticeship, dependent on the opportunity. So this is something that, again, employers are looking at a long-term investment in their future staff. This isn't just potentially 2 years, it could also then lead into a higher apprenticeship, which again, the college would be keen to work with employers regarding for the digital sector. The award board is Pearson, and we will aim to complete the core components in the first year and focus more on occupational specialisms within the second. You can see on the slide there in front of you what topics that students have to cover. Granted, they're quite broad. However, I can assure you there's a lot of specifics that fall into that, coding, language, etc., that we'd be keen to hear off employers of what they want to work in and help to shape us, because September will be our first year of delivery. So there's a lot of information that the team are going through and training to get ready for September's delivery, but the model is there in terms of what we have to do. In terms of this pathway in particular, what development skills do students get being part of this programme? Problem analysis, critical thinking is really very important. They'll be working with an employer for a set problem that they want their support on. So from there, they have to analyse, understand the needs, define requirements, and start to put in improvements. They'll start to develop, analyse, and improve, hopefully, web-based presence, design, implement, and test software, change, maintain, and support software, work collaboratively within a digital team. They'll start to discover, evaluate, apply reliable sources of knowledge. Obviously, you could see within the core competency, digital legislation is one of the key components that students have to cover. So the regulatory frameworks that coincide with digital activity and work will be covered, and something that we develop within our students. And what we will be looking to do, particularly with exciting times for the college, as they start to develop their digital prevalence, is start to look at Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, 3D printing, blockchaining, are all exciting things that the college are looking to develop their skills and support with for students in the future. So in terms of, I will circulate the PowerPoint, I will send it in so we can circulate that to everyone who's been present, and anyone who emails will be more than welcome to the PowerPoint, of which there's lots of links that you'll see on there to take you to various sources of information that are really very helpful at this moment in time, and that can hopefully, if this presentation has piqued a little bit of interest, something for a little bit of further reading. My email address is also on there. I would absolutely welcome emails for further questions, or should you want to have a subsequent conversation with myself and the industry placement team, and we can book those in the near future, hopefully before Christmas. Any questions? Stunned silence, so.
I'll ask a question actually, Mark. I'm Dan Waterman from Carlson Waterman. So what we have as an issue when trying to bring talent in to the studio is we could bring in a sort of university graduate and they would still usually be sat there scratching their head for the first few months trying to catch up with what's going on within the studio. So a T-level is really difficult to work out how we could accommodate, because usually it's going to take far too long for anyone to really catch up to how we're working. How do you find sort of technical companies do that? I mean, you mentioned software engineering as an example, and you know, from college level coding to going to a software engineer, I imagine that's quite a leap. And so I'd be interested to know sort of how you've seen that work previously.
Well, yeah, I think I agree wholeheartedly. It is quite a jump from, you know, using quite simple coding softwares. What I would say is what we are keen to do is work with our employees to support their future talent recruitment. So if there are particular languages of coding that you and your company would benefit from, the specification actually states and designates only one, which is Python, and then the other two are actually open to the college in terms of what they develop. So if there are things that the sector, we want to be contemporary and making sure our students understand what the sector needs. So if there are particular coding languages that you use and you know would be of benefit, we absolutely have to plan that into our delivery. And what it may well be is, with your model of placement, if you're hopefully keen to give some learners as part of the T-level program an opportunity to kind of hone their skills with yourself, is we'd have to be mindful of when they come to you, at what stage in their development. Is it better potentially as a second year placement where they've got all the first year under their belt and they've got perhaps an increased level of skill set, as opposed to maybe coming to you in first year where they perhaps wouldn't add that much value to you? That's something I think would come out devil's in the detail a little bit. And in this infancy kind of stage, all we could say is we'd be keen to kind of listen to what your needs are as the employer and start to shape our curriculum so our students are geared up for that as part of their placement. Sorry if that was a little bit soft and round the reeking kind of answer.
No, it's perfect. I think the thing is that, you know, I think with maybe coding particular languages, I guess that's sort of slightly easier to sort of adapt in that way. You know, for us, I mean, the softwares we use will just be, you know, things that a lot of people don't. I mean, we have most students coming out of local universities without having ever used the softwares that we use. I mean, some of the softwares we use, you know, are costing 13 grand, 15 grand per license. And it's just one of those things where it's just not as simple to have people come in and really have any understanding. And so it's that steep learning curve, rather than sort of finding ways where certain things you can sort of say, okay, well, you know, if you need a different coding language, that's fine, we'll adapt. But it doesn't solve the issue if there is a steep learning curve that we're needing to address. I think whether it's university, whether it's apprenticeship, whether it's T-level, all of them have that same challenge of that we haven't quite found that way around yet. And as an industry, there is a steep learning curve. And how can companies work with sort of education and students to try and help that learning curve?
Yeah, I mean, I do understand and agree the point wholeheartedly. What I would say is this is an investment in maybe, I know this sounds quite cliche, and it's perhaps a bigger conversation about how do we get them geared up for the sector when the training is perhaps behind or not embellished with the same resources as what the sector needs. So I guess for the T-level, it's this understanding that it's an investment in time for someone who could be where you need them to be in the very near future by giving them that opportunity to be hands-on. And as with everything, it's almost kind of this tripartite kind of agreement between the centre, the employer and the learner, that we're all striving to meet their kind of future needs. I don't know if you've got anything that you want to add on that, Tony, because I know you do a lot of employer engagement.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to mention about how say with Stone Computers or Stone Group, you know, is a business that we're hoping to kind of be doing some work with, and we've kind of identified that actually a kind of 1 day a week model won't work for them. We're looking at what obviously the curriculum is going to be. We're arranging meetings with them soon to kind of look at how we can work with them effectively, and what we've decided to do with that is do a block placement, which will be kind of an 8-week program that will help filter into their summer recruitment, so that they can get a feel for the business, understand the business need, understand the business as a whole, and then with the aim to kind of move them into departments in which they've thrived over that 8-week period, and then hopefully then we can kind of focus on the core elements and the specialisms to try and help benefit that business as best we can. And I think, yeah, like Mark said, in terms of, you know, looking at what your business needs are, we can then obviously look at the curriculum, see when that's going to fit in best, hopefully get them, you know, kind of interested in the business, maybe at a very base level, like you say, and then we'll kind of work towards looking at the curriculum and how we can feed that into, you know, your business versus, you know, obviously what they're learning at college. And you know, like you say, it's going to be tricky. That, you know, the T levels are, you know, with them being so new, it is going to be, you know, like you say, a little bit of a learning curve, but I think we're trying our best to, you know, figure out what the business needs are and how we can kind of accommodate that the most effectively. Because whether that be, like you say, 1 day placement, 2nd year placement, block placement, because you think working on a project for a long period of time is going to be more beneficial, they'll learn more about the business in the first instance, and you can kind of feed them with the knowledge that they're going to need to help you kind of in that project. I think is going to be, you know, that's kind of going to be the best way I think that we're going to be able to work with employers, is just kind of base it on their workload, what their projects are going to be, like you say, what software they use, and we can try and tailor it as much as we can, because that's going to be the only way that we're going to effectively get all these students placed and be beneficial to the employer. I think it's kind of what I've got to say.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is I think it just requires a bit of a backwards and forwards, really. I mean, I welcome, I don't know if you guys are leaving the offices to come and visit companies, but I think probably the first step would be to come and maybe see a bit of what we do, and we can try and find some sort of middle ground potentially to see how it could work.
I mean, yeah.
Oh,
sorry, Tony. We're certainly desperate to go out because we've been kind of cooked up for a little while now. So any visits to employers are always great visits. We always do kind of enjoy going out and visiting, seeing the work that the employees doing, because ultimately that should be the model that kind of feeds back into what our students should be developing. So I think that's one of the real strengths to this program, because it's not a specification and program that stands still. It's one that kind of has to constantly keep moving, and that's why it's almost top of the priority list for the DFE, really, to kind of make sure this doesn't lose traction despite the challenges of the last 18 months of the education sector. They're still very, very keen for this to work and make sure we get T levels a high level of presence within the FE sector. So yeah, very much keen to go and visit. Sorry, Tony, I put you off.
No, the other thing that I was going to say was, obviously, you know, and after those visits have taken place, I think that, you know, we kind of obviously are talking for more of a, you know, we want obviously them to learn as much as they can, but ultimately, if there is a project, say for example within your business, that maybe isn't something that you're kind of like working on specifically, but like say for example, if they work with more of an administration role, kind of like say doing website testing and all that sort of stuff, kind of, you know, kind of more back of house stuff rather than kind of being involved with necessarily the coding and everything in the first instance, there is that element of introducing them, I suppose, well, as a more soft approach, is introducing them to the business in more perhaps an administrative role, and give them the opportunity to learn about the business, and then kind of, you know, pique that interest, and then move forward in areas like you say that you think, you know, the student might be a good way of kind of introducing them to businesses in the first instance. Do you know what I mean? Instead of kind of, you know, throwing them in and saying, okay, well, we want you to learn this type of code and this, actually, you know, maybe a softer approach could also work for you. A bit of feedback about the business, about how people, you know, within your business are, you know, liaising with clients, is that effective, and all that sort of stuff, I think would be also, you know, an option for us. So that's all I was going to say. Jenny, have you got any questions, or Chamber?
It was a question really on numbers of students. I mean, because obviously there's your college, but then there's other ones as well. So what sort of numbers of students are going to be looking for placements every year?
Okay, I know Tony's muted then unmuted, so I don't know who's going to answer then. So I'll go first. I guess I blink first. What I would say is that we understand for this year, this will be our first year of delivery. So to give you a bit of background, the T-levels have been developed in waves. So digital has been available for a couple of years. This is our first year of choosing to deliver, so technically kind of wave free. Most sixth form colleges, FE colleges will start to look at this route way, particularly as it's had a couple of years now where the specification's been available, other centres are delivering it. So there will be a lot more who are keen to develop their digital production design and development T-level route way. Do we have to have every student who is currently on an applied general doing this pathway? No, I think that's obviously been clear from the recent news from the government giving an additional year to applied generals, which now ends 2024, I believe, Tony. There's an additional year. So in any which case, people aren't having to do this because they'll lose the BTEC extended diploma IT. We as a centre are doing this because we see it as a really exciting opportunity for our students to work with employers to improve their destinations, and that's why we're doing it. In terms of a cohort, I mean, we'd like to have the ambition of having 20 students maybe at Newcastle campus and the same at Stafford campus, but how we extrapolate that across other centres would be a bit of a guess, to be honest, finger in the air kind of guesswork, so I wouldn't like to say.
Okay, thank you.
I know. So I know that the sixth form, obviously local to us, they had 11 students on their first cohort, which started last September, and they have currently got 8 still on that placement. They've moved a few people around, but so their numbers are quite low. We would anticipate ours to be slightly higher. Obviously we're a bigger organisation, so I think 15 to 20 is probably about right with any luck. So yeah.
Okay. Are you looking at the numbers of students in the cohort correlating with the types of industries in the areas so that there's enough placements or enough opportunity for placements locally?
I think we're in the kind of early stages of planning. I think what's important is to get the information out to the employees in the first place and to see the appetite really. The one thing I would say with digital is it's not discrete to the digital industry to get a placement, and that's the key thing. So we're keen to work with a range of different sectors and industries, because we all know that heightened presence now of digital application it's massive, and it's going to be ever growing. So what we are keen to do is, as a model, our academic year would start in September. We would have a grace period between September, what we'd aim to be October half term, for almost a placement, and we'd be looking to work with employers to do some site visits for cohorts. So also kind of just even the common sense stuff, like, you know, if we do have a group of 15, we wouldn't want to send 2 of that 15 to a placement that, you know, perhaps would be difficult for them to go to. You know, it would be challenging for them geographically. You know, we'd have to do this, employers choosing to work with who they work with, and also students being placed in places they can do the best work. So I think that's something that we kind of go as a timeline a little further down the road.
Yeah, I would be keen as well for businesses to kind of, you know, like you say, kind of maybe look at developing some enrichment opportunities, like you say, kind of visits to the college, talks, you know, a bit to, again, kind of gain traction and a bit of interest into those businesses. And also, you know, maybe have the opportunity for them to interview, you know, if they were, you know, really selective about which students, you know, that they wanted to bring into their business, which I'm hoping they will be, because like I say, from a future planning point of view, we do have that opportunity to, you know, really help fill those skills gaps, and actually, you know, for you to be able to meet the students in advance, possibly interview, you know, if that's what you wanted, then I think that would be, you know, again, it would even further that work life, this is how it is, you know, you have to interview for, you know, for work and jobs and things like that. So I think it would be, you know, a good thing, you know, to kind of pre-introduce the students into those you know, workplaces, and then give them the opportunity to apply for those roles. So you're making sure that we're getting the best students, like Mark said, the best fit for the best students, best fit for that business. So yeah.
Great.
Is that it?
Well, you're very gentle on us for the questions, I must say. So thank you for that. You know.
If there is any more questions, Mark, are you happy for them to send it to your email that was on the PowerPoint before?
Yeah, absolutely fine. And I'll forward on to yourself the PowerPoint, and then that can be circulated for any email contacts that you've got. So they'll have it on there as well.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thank you for attending today, guys, and thank you, Mark and Tony, for hosting.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.